Hey everyone, it's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. It is Saturday, May 16th, and I'm going to jump right into it. So I'm going to start with a couple things. We're going to start with North Street. So as you know, we always talk about North Street. Its challenges, changes, bike lanes, the whole deal. So we do know that the Pittsfield Police Department has been clamping down on e-bikes. Whether they've been patrolling the North Street area and trying to prevent e-bikes and just bicycles in general going down the sidewalks, that I'm not sure of. Many of you know I did reach out to the chief. I sent an email to our chief of police, Mark Madalena, and it was weird. It took a couple days and it came back to me as unable to deliver. So I'm going to call the PPD. I don't know why my email can't get through to them. I don't know if there's a change in the system or something going on there. So I'm going to call Chief Madalena and see if it's possible to schedule an interview and talk to him about a few things. So one of the things they're talking about on North Street right now is a new incentive, financial incentive to try to fill these storefronts. We have a high vacancy rate. And if you remember, it was just a couple of years ago, there were people posting North Street is fuller than it's been in years. And, you know, I remember getting some flack from a few people when I said, yeah, but are we sure that isn't just because some of the grant money and things that was handed out during and after COVID? What happens when that grant funding runs out? Are we going to end up losing more businesses? I don't know if that's the root cause behind it, but we did lose a considerable amount of businesses, and we have 25 or somewhere in that range, 25 or more empty vacant storefronts on North Street. So that's an issue. So the city is looking at different ways to try to incentivize business there, and we'll see how that works out. I will, when I can, I'll reach out to Mayor Marchetti again and see if we can talk about that. St. Joe High School is being discussed. As many of you know, that's being looked at for a proposed housing project, and it looks like there's a good chance that is going to go through. So we'll see what happens there. That I hate when I hear the term market rate because apartments in Pittsfield, I don't know how people do it. I really don't. What the cost of a rental in Pittsfield is now is mind-blowing to me. And you know, yes, rentals are up nationwide. Corporations, especially after the pandemic, and during the Opportunity Zone Act, when that was signed, corporations started buying up communities nationwide. That's an issue. And I think, you know, I hate to say it, but that seems to be an issue here. Our rental market is falling into the hands of just a few. Now, that is a two-sided coin. You know, there's people that have said to me, I get what you're saying, Mike, but what would happen if we didn't have some of these companies taking on these housing projects? Where would Pittsfield be then? So that's one, you know, I don't know, that definitely deserves further discussion. Obviously, more housing is a good thing. Market rate scares me again, just because you look at the median income for our community. The median household income is just over 60,000 a year. That's nothing anymore when you're looking at, I don't know, say if you needed a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment for your family. With utilities, you're probably looking at $2,500, $2,600 a month. That doesn't include someone having a car payment, groceries, health insurance, all the things that, you know, you're looking at somebody, a lot of money. When you have to spend $50,000 to $60,000 a year on basic necessities, I don't know. I don't know how people are doing it. So that's for a single person. And, you know, believe me, I feel that. I live alone. It is incredibly stressful. But anyways, the housing situation is something we're going to dig more into. Many of you saw proposed the motel, the Wagon Wheel in Lenox that was destroyed in a fire earlier in the year. And now they're looking at a proposed gas station with a Dunkin' Donuts in it. And a couple people sent me messages saying, well, why would they do that? We just had one. We did have one directly across from Guido's on the Pittsfield side of the line. And there was a Dunkin' Donuts in there that closed right around the time the Starbucks opened across the street. But here's what I tell people. If you want to know why that Lennox Pittsfield line is filling up and why Lennox is getting so much business now, I'm just going to throw this out there. The commercial tax rate in Pittsfield is $36.90 per thousand. The commercial tax rate in Lennox is $14.37 per thousand. Does that have anything to do with it? You'd have to ask yourself that and see what conclusion you come to. But I would be willing to bet that's a big piece of the puzzle. You're talking a considerable difference in commercial tax rate. But anyways, we're going to talk more about that. And I'm going to do more on the growth in that area. And again, this all relates back to a conversation I want to have with the mayor about North Street again, and talking to the chief. If I can get an interview with Chief Madalena talking about addressing some of the issues downtown and what they have going on with e-bikes right now, because I knew that e-bike thing was going to become an issue. And it's sad when something becomes as popular as e-bikes. I own one. They're a great tool to have for many. For a lot of people that can't afford a car, and believe me, I get how there's been times I've considered taking my car off the road during the summer, during the nice weather, and just using my bicycle. And I've seriously considered that multiple times to save money. You look at gas costs, insurance, all the things that, it's very expensive. So, very expensive. And, but the thing with e-bikes is a lot of it is being abused. You see these younger people getting them, and they're getting some of these that do ridiculous speeds, and they're not e-bicycles. They're electric motorcycles. They do speeds of 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. They're used irresponsibly by a lot of people, and it's caused issues in the community. So it had to be addressed. And this isn't just Pittsfield. This finally is, it's nationwide, but Massachusetts has finally stepped up and said, okay, this is becoming a serious problem. So that is having to be addressed. To the people that have given to my fundraiser, again, I can't thank you enough. I'm going to leave that up throughout the month. Hopefully we can get a little bit more this year. I have so many requests from nonprofits and things coming in that anything you can give is greatly appreciated. Again, to the people that have given, I cannot thank you enough. It's been a huge help. We're close to the goal that I set. So I'm going to put the link to that GoFundMe in the comments of this again. If you can give anything, 10, 20, 50, whatever you can give is greatly appreciated. I know things are incredibly expensive right now, but a lot of the stuff that I'm covering for nonprofits and other things, just the fuel costs is with what gas is right now, it's killing me. So any help is greatly appreciated. Again, I'll put that in the links. Or in the link in the comment section of this video. Another thing I want to touch on before I conclude this is many of you know the situation that happened with the Hinsdale Police Department with a young man in January that lost his life. He was having a mental health crisis. His name was Biagio Cavill. He was having a mental health crisis. The Hinsdale Police Department responded, and it turned into an incredible tragedy where that young man lost his life. I went to that press conference. Before I get into that, we all know that news came out that recently there is going to be an investigation by an independent law firm into some policies and procedures by the Hinsdale PD. And that's already tainted with people having concerns because it came out that the chief of the Hinsdale PD is affiliated or linked to this law firm that's supposed to be doing this independent investigation. And that's raising concerns from people. I went to the press conference that the DA's office held when they released their findings of that shooting. I've watched the body camera footage from the entire incident, not just the 48 seconds of the tragedy, but the entire incident. I've read the report. I want to start by saying, over the years of me doing this, I am incredibly grateful that I am included as press with many of our local agencies, including the DA's office. I'm invited to press conferences. I receive press releases, and I take that as very serious. I take it as a privilege, and I take it very serious. And I try to be as non-biased as possible, because trying to get news that isn't completely watered down with opinion is difficult. So when I get most press releases on serious issues like that, I put the press release out and I leave it at that. I have to say, because this has been bothering me greatly. So with that incident, again, I've read the entire report, which was a book. I mean, it was a lot. I watched all the body camera footage. I listened to what the DA had to say at his press conference. He did say that he had concerns in some of the training and procedures. I do understand his decision from the legal perspective, but after watching that body camera footage, it was gut-wrenchingly heartbreaking. I don't know why that had to happen that way. I don't understand why that had to happen that way. I don't understand why the individual's door was breached the way it was. He was communicating with them, which was a huge step. This was not an individual with a criminal past. I don't understand why that had to end that way, and it was so tragic. It put officers at risk. It put their lives at risk. But that young man lost his life. And I personally, I've watched it, I can't tell you how many times. To the people that have asked me if I'm going to release any of that, I am not. And I never will. Never, ever, ever. I'm sure if somebody wants to have access to that, they can put in an information request and find it on their own. I would never do that to the family. I don't think that would be right. I don't think it would be right for that young man's memory. So that being said, though, I watched it. I understand the Dalton Police Department had recently put out a statement saying that they're breaking ties with Hinsdale as far as like co-responding with them or something like that. And I hope I'm wording that right. The Dalton police officer that was there at the scene, there was a female police officer, and I think there were two Dalton police officers, but one of the officers that I was listening to through the whole thing, she seemed greatly concerned. She was continually asking, are we getting mental health help here? And I don't know, I forget what the code for that was. There was a lot of it that concerned me. And I don't believe that would have happened if that was the Pittsfield Police Department. I do not think that that would have ended that way. This was a situation where this individual was in a room by himself. One of the police officers there he knew and knew him, but he only knew him, I think, through helping him get his car out of the snow. He called for help himself. He was having a mental health crisis. He was communicating with them through the door. I truly believe in my heart that if a mental health professional had been brought in, that could have been de-escalated, that didn't have to happen. I don't understand why the door was breached the way it was. And then as far as the individual having a gun, which he did, and he had his LTC. Why he had that gun on him, I don't know. There's a million different reasons that could have been. I was thinking, was he trying to hide it? Was he thinking, because of this situation, I don't want to risk losing my LTC? Could it have been something like that? He clearly stated you could hear him say when he's communicating with the officers through the door that he had no intent of harming himself or harming anyone else. When the door was breached, he did have the gun in his hand. He was knocked down on the bed. When that gun was discharged, he was face down on a bed with the gun underneath him in his left hand. He was on top of it. There was an officer trying to rip it out of his hand. Nobody knows, and nobody will ever know, and that's how the DA worded it, how that gun was discharged. That very likely could have been discharged when he was being tased and the officer was trying to rip it out of his hand, that it accidentally went off. Nobody will know. Personally, I think that is very likely that is what happened. That's my view on it, but we don't know that, and there is no way to know that. So I don't want to speculate, and even though I'm kind of just did, but not knowing that, you kind of have to give the benefit of the doubt to the individual. He didn't have anyone else in the room with him. Nobody was in danger. I don't know why that had to happen. So that one has been bothering me and tugging at me since I've seen that. I have a lot of respect for law enforcement. My father was in law enforcement. In my working life, I've done a ton of work for the Fraternal Order of Police, Police Benevolent Association, Drug-Free School Zone Project. I've done ride-alongs with police officers, not in this area, but in Charlotte, North Carolina, and in Florida, and I've seen things, and I understand some of the stresses that a law enforcement officer goes through. I can only say I understand them from a citizen's point of view that saw some of the stuff. There's a ton that we ask these people that put that badge on, but in this particular situation, I don't feel that needed to happen, and it is heartbreaking that young man is no longer here, and that's been eating at me. I just feel like whoever was in charge wasn't in charge. It was a chaotic scene that put everyone at risk. And a young man lost his life. Police officers were injured due to chaos. I just don't understand why that had to happen that way. So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say on that for now. I don't want to end on a negative note, but I had to say that. That's been really bothering me. I feel horrible for that whole situation, and I feel horrible for his mother, and most importantly, and his siblings, but most importantly, him. A young man that had a promising future ahead of him that was going through a tough time and is no longer here. And that part is gut-wrenching. Because that could be me. That could be anybody. That could have been me having a mental breakdown. You know, things in life happen. And you're definitely a lot more susceptible to it in your 20s. And yes, I'm well past my 20s. But that could be any of us. And that one bothers me. So I'm sure that it won't be the last I speak of that. But I hope that this independent investigation into the Hinsdale Police Department and their procedures or whatever that is, I hope they look at getting a different law firm that is truly no connections, non-affiliated to anybody in that department or the department itself. And that really needs to happen, to have an unbiased, true review of what's going on there, because that can't happen. Nothing like that can happen again. Nothing like that could ever happen again. And I completely understand why the Dalton Police Department made the decision they did as far as working with the Hinsdale PD right now. I completely understand that. I could hear the stress on that officer. It was not a good situation. So anyway, I'm going to end with that on that note. Again, I have some upcoming stuff for a lot of our nonprofits. Tomorrow I'll be filming with Joe DeSico for the Striking Out Cancer all-day baseball softball game, which is a big fundraiser for the Dana-Farber the Jimmy Fund Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. Also, I did a video with Steve Bateman for the Harry A. Bateman Memorial Fishing Derby. That's another one that raises a lot of funds for the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute through the Jimmy Fund, and I will be covering that. That actually takes place on June 6th at Enoda Lake at the Frank Controy Pavilion. So I'll be plugging that as we get a little bit closer, and I'll be covering the event itself. And some cool stuff coming up with some of our pizza places. There's a lot coming up. It's a tough time right now, and this is one of those times where community needs to come together. We're going to be talking a lot more about what's happening in the Pittsfield Public Schools, that PHS report. That's another one I'll be talking about soon enough. I just wanted to get a little bit more information on the redistricting and how that's going to go with busing, and because believe me, I'm seeing all your messages. And so that's one I'll be talking about in detail, and I'll be reaching out to some school committee members and seeing if we can do some interviews there. So that is it for now. There's a lot coming up. So all that'll be starting tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll have that video with Joe DeSico in the Striking Out Cancer tournament and a few other things. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other. There's some great weather coming. Get out and enjoy it if you can. Be good to each other, though. Be positive. Don't be afraid to speak up, but don't be angry about it. Do it the right way. And I'll catch y'all on the next day.